Why do people modify their cars? When I get this question from non-car people, it comes off as innocent curiosity. Ironically, it's the car guys who have a lot more of aggression behind this question. Here's an example. So I got this tweet from our subscribers who showcased someone doing just that. Fortunately, he censored the guy's name so you don't harass him and whatnot. Having said that, this is a prevailing logic that exists in the car community, and I think it's really, really negative, stupid, and it holds us back, not just for this community, but it'll hold back other communities too. So I'm going to use two lines of logic in this video to break down why most people modify their cars, one of which is going to be a more innocent reason, the other one is going to be a more serious one that's actually going to be directly addressed at that guy. So the first and most obvious reason is for customization, and to illustrate that, I'm going to use modded video games as an analogy. So some people will buy a video game and they'll just play it as is, just right out of the box how the manufacturer intended, just like how some people will buy a car and just drive it just the way it is. When it needs to be repaired, they'll just replace it with OEM parts for the same reason that if someone has struggles in a video game, they're just going to keep playing it the way it was meant to be played, even if some of the defs are rather cheap. While other people will be like, I could definitely make this better, and they might start using like unofficial patches to kind of fix some dumb glitches to make the game probably play better. And when it comes to modifying video games, there's two main categories. You have immersive modding, and then you have creative modding. So with something like immersion, that's the equivalent of clean modding for cars, where you're basically just doing a little bit here and there, things that are sorting the game up. Like if you were to play like Skyrim, for example, getting unofficial patches, getting texture mods, getting things that spice up the game's cosmetics, but also fix the game a little bit from a performance standpoint. That is the same with cars. If someone's cleanly modding a car, they're probably just doing wheels, they might do some carbon fiber ground effects, stuff like that. Nothing super crazy. And creative modding is always a lot more controversial than immersive modding, because the word immersive means immersion. It stems from that in the sense that it doesn't make the game feel way different from what it was intended to feel like, just stuff that you think that even the producers of the game would have done had they been given the proper time to do it, like those unofficial patches, for example, or like better textures or better dialogue. Very immersive things that don't break the lore of the game in the same way that very clean modding doesn't break the intended flow of the car. When you start doing creative modding, you do kind of break that flow on varying levels. Maybe you want guns in Skyrim, or maybe you want something as goofy as the rain being trains falling from the sky instead of water falling from the sky. And those things are incredulously goofy, so much so that people call them unnecessary, and even to the point where they'll hate you for using those things. In the same way that when you start putting wide body kits on cars, you're now interrupting the manufacturer's intended flow. Aftermarket bumpers, like front and back especially, those become controversial because, again, you're now completely overhauling the manufacturer's vision. It's now not just simple ground effects and splitters and spoilers anymore. You're now completely changing the lines of the car in the same way that you could completely turn Skyrim from like a more medieval-esque fantasy RPG into a stupid first-person shooter if you wanted. But not gonna lie, the Mosin Nagant rifle mod in that game is really, really cool. It has sound effects and even has proper ejecting shells. You should use it sometime just for the kicks and giggles. And for the kicks and giggles, really kind of sums up the creative desire. Results may vary when it comes to improved experiences. Some people may find it hilarious to have trains raining from the sky. Other people may think it's the dumbest thing that doesn't just take away from the game, but makes it completely unplayable. And you know what? They are probably right. So why would someone do something like that to a game to make it completely unplayable in the same way that negative 20 camber makes your car completely undrivable? Just for expression, just because they can. Modders have the power to do things like that, and gosh darn, they will do it if they can. And yes, believe it or not, it's not always about SPS or having to show off to others. Some people genuinely do it for themselves, because going back to the video game example, Skyrim is a single player game. There's literally no one to it's not like in World of Warcraft where if you get a cool item like Shadowmoor and you want to show it off to the public, it's not an MMO. If you're modding a game like Skyrim, it's literally only for yourself. So why do people do it then if it's only for themselves? Get this? Because people just love to customize things, even when no one else is watching, even if no one else is going to benefit from it, and even if other people do judge them, because I know people who look up each other's Skyrim load orders just to judge each other's mods in the same way someone's going to look at a stance to BRZ and be like, why do you have a big wing on it? But whatever, at the end of the day, they probably did it for themselves. So the second example I'd like to use is experimentation. So to address this guy's, he's just a hypocrite, alright? I'm gonna say it, because he's so busy white knighting Koenigsegg, he doesn't even know their basic history. Koenigsegg was a modder. By his logic, Koenigsegg has SPS, because Koenigsegg started off tuning and modding Ford engines. This is a very common start for a lot of companies. Think about Celine. Celine started off by modding Mustangs and got to the point where they can literally make a hypercar out of nowhere that no one asked for, but blew the world away, and that was the Celine S7. The McLaren F1, which is one of the most valuable cars in today's existence, being as much as 25 million, that car has a modified variant of a BMW engine. Now, I know some people are going to point out and say, look, I don't think this guy's totally against modding. You're sure he's advocating against stock, but notice how his second sentence mentions about going overboard. F that. Going overboard is what moves us forward. It's what allows adaptability. Koenigsegg did not have to take a freaking Ford engine and push it the way he did. Celine did not have to make a hypercar out of nowhere and make it as extreme as they did. Going overboard challenges the limits. It challenges the company's ability to take what is known, something that is not modified or that is vanilla, and just completely push it to the brink of breaking. And once it does break, they want to build it back to the point where it doesn't just survive the next attempt, but thrives from it and can actually achieve an even higher result from before. Going overboard is perfect. It is absolutely what makes us exist as human. I'm not saying you can't like a stock car, because there's a reason why it's stock the way it is, because that's what the manufacturer has chosen. Hey, this is the comfortable level that a lot of people are just going to take and be fine with, and the vast majority of people do just that. So when we mod things, it's because we see something and we're like, look, we can make that better. That leads to an experimental phase. It's the same reason why when your teacher gives you a lesson, it's an outline. You can follow the lesson based on what he taught you, but should you want to move humankind forward, you have to experiment. You have to kind of play with that line of logic and do your own thing with it, and it may lead to better results. It may lead to worse results too. It may be even less efficient than what you were taught in school, but in the same way that experimenting can sometimes lead to the wrong path, if you keep at it, you can get to the point where you become more fine-tuned with it, and you can start going down paths that have never been opened before that were far better than the ones that existed. That's why you shouldn't always take everything exactly as it was told. We don't all go to school, learn about the same exact subject, and come out of it with the same exact line of logic of how to approach it, because that would make us all boring robots. That adaptability makes us human as much as our desire for customization does. That's part of the reason why companies like Toyota just let people modify the brand new Supra, so much so to the point that they just say, leave it to the tuning companies. But to be fair, there is some extremeness to that extent. That'd be like if Todd Howard released Skyrim again for like the 10th billionth time now and proceeded to say, oh, well, despite its barebone nature, that's actually the Elder Scrolls 6, just let the modders handle it. So just let the tuner companies handle it. It's not the most sound of logic, so there is an extreme to it. As a company, yeah, they should still make a car and strive for it to be a good platform stock, because there will be a vast majority of people who just want the car just like that. So they can't laze out, charge a high price, and be like, leave it to the tuning companies. That's not how it works. If you make a car stock and you're going to charge a high price, it should have a decent start to it. Like, it should be a pretty good platform to continue to build off of. That's why people love Mustangs and Corvettes and Subaru WRXs, because, out of the box, they're fantastic cars. You want to play with them, even blow up its engine, you can definitely do that, or you can do the opposite. You can modify them in a very well-built way, even learn new things about them. There's still things that we're learning more and more about cars from forever ago, like the 5.0s and the old Fox bodies. There are still people learning more knowledge about that. Like, to this day, that'd be like someone going back, playing Final Fantasy VII and modding the crap out of it. But like, old is gold. People will still mod cars that are from the 90s, 80s, 70s, and we're still learning new things about those cars while we're modifying them. So for a total White Knight fanboy Koenigsegg, I hope this guy realizes your precious Koenigsegg's that are completely built in-house and they're not modded cars anymore. They're completely built in-house by Koenigsegg now, but those would not have existed had Koenigsegg not started off as a modder. So by his own logic, his very beloved Christian von Koenigsegg also has small, we'll just say SPS because I want to keep my monetization. And on the topic of SPS, before I close this video, I've said it before in one of my older videos, including non-car guys, and I'll say it again. The first person to usually mention compensation, or the first person to bring up SPS, is usually the one with the smallest of all. Having said that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time. Blade Angel out.